Hello, guys. Welcome to Checkout Podcast. And today we have our special guest, Matt. Matt is a fractional CFO helping e-commerce business, and he have scaled up a lot of business. And he have worked with more than 60 plus business, especially in US and Canada. And today I have a privilege to interview him, ask a lot of insights and information about him. Thank you, Matt. Welcome to the show. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, Arun. It's my pleasure.
Thank you. Matt, before we start, I would love to know about you. If you can just give a quick update about your experience and what you do right now.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I used to work in private equity and live in the corporate life. And what happened was just a friend of mine had a business and he asked me for some help with cash flow and forecasting. And I helped him, made a whole bunch more money, helped a couple of his friends. And then I realized that I could do this full time. And I left my corporate job and I've been doing this ever since. And that was about 6 years ago. And now I've worked with brands from 2 million a year to 150 million a year in the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and in Europe. And yeah, it's been a wonderful journey. Hard sometimes, of course.
Yeah, that's awesome. And is there any specific reason that you love to work with DTC and e-commerce, especially, Matt?
Yeah, I find that the energy from e-com and CPG founders is pretty contagious. And so I really enjoy that. And I find that they are innovating and pushing the envelope and they're fun to work with.
Right. And as a CFO, and you work with a lot of business and scaling up. So what is the one common thing that you look at in any business right now? Because I see a lot of things, Matt, even though they make you 20 million a year, when you look at the real numbers, they are not profitable enough and they lose a lot of money. And I know I can give a couple of companies went under even after they're doing 100 million. That's right. So this is something amazing. I always think like, how come this is happening? And if you have an experience and if you're working with a couple of things, like what is the main reason companies fail even though they have a pretty good cash flow or even they have a good income coming in?
I think that one of the biggest things I've seen is a drift in focus. So I worked with a brand that was doing quite well, went from 0 to 8 figures in less than 3 years. And then they slowed down. And then a competitor entered the space and got to 9 figures in the same time frame. And the difference between the two was the person I worked with went from 3 SKUs to 800. The competitor stayed with 3 SKUs the whole time. And when you went to the competitor's website, you would open up the site and it was literally just the one SKU on the page. There was nothing else to do. And our other site had a catalog in it. And so the reason I say focus is because most of the time, there's only a very small portion of activities that give us a high return. And that's SKUs and that's team members and marketing and channels and countries. And so, and what I find is that as typical entrepreneurs, myself included, we lock down one thing and then we want to push further. And what I have seen is the companies that say the most focused do the best. Another client, for example, they did baby carriers and they just focused on launching the next best version of that carrier. And they did 200 grand on launch day, 300 grand on launch day. And then and now they're doing awesome. So to me, focus is the biggest thing.
And in terms of focusing, and there's one more component I really like to understand as a CFO. Especially we are spending a lot of time and money on ads, especially. So can you work with like what's the rule of thumb we should invest as a startup company, at least if somebody is between 1 to 5 million and they want to scale up?
Okay, so from 0 to 1 million, I actually that's not really my specialty unless you're venture funded, right? So if you're venture funded, I can help. If you're not venture funded, you got to bootstrap and that's not my specialty. So once you have traction and you have customers, there's a couple areas to look at. And actually, I didn't create this framework, but Alex Hormozi did, but I love it. And he has a scorecard in his conferences where they walk you through how do you figure out what's the most important. And in order, I believe we look at revenue growth first, gross margin, lifetime value, and a couple other things. But those are really in that order. So if your revenue is growing, good, okay, great. But if your gross margin is below 80%, work on that. If your LTV to CAC is below 3 to 1, then work on that. And so generally speaking, in that order, you would want to work. So at $1 million, if you're figuring out how to grow, your main job is to get more sales. And in fact, when I talk to people who are doing $1 million, I tell them, don't pay me to help you. Figure out how to grow. And actually now we're working a bit on that side again, but your job is just to sell more stuff at $1 million. Once you get to 5, you have to make sure you're selling efficiently and that you can manage your sort of ordering and so on. But at $1 million, just sell more stuff. Just sell, make better ads, sell more, push up more ads, get more of the same product that's working now. Don't add new products, just sell more of the one thing. Yeah.
I like the way you're talking about don't add more product. This is one of the things that I always get with my clients, and we always get into arguments. When we scaling the company, and example, we have 8 SKU and all the products are doing really well, then we have some financial problem because we need more investment for ads and other things. Like a client end up introducing a new product, they want to introduce a new SKU. And then it's getting more, the budget and everything is getting diluted. So talk to me through like how, for example, if the company is working really well and they are good enough in terms of making money at this time, do you recommend to introduce new SKU at the moment, or what's the best time to introduce a new SKU? Or
that's a really good question. So I work with a client who's doing $2 to $3 million a month in revenue off a very narrow range of SKUs. And they figured out how to grow, they figured out how to acquire, and they figured out the gross margin. But their LTV to CAC is not awesome. It's like 1.7, 1.8. So I have suggested to try to find another SKU. Now, but they're growing more than 50% per year, and their gross margins are in the 70s, 80s. Okay, so a profile like that, and they're doing $2 million a month already. A profile like that is where looking at new SKUs is a logical next step. But if you're $2 million and your gross margin is 50% and you're growing 10% a year, SKUs is not your problem. It's either a product issue or a product margin issue, or people don't want your product, or you haven't figured out how to sell it yet. So once you crack selling one product and you're doing it well and the margin's good and you've proven you can grow demand for that product, then add a separate. But don't add a product if you just want to increase your AOV by 10%. That's the worst reason, and it's also the reason why this other company I worked with got leapfrogged by this big competitor, is because they're like, our AOV is whatever dollars that it was. If we just add like a pen and I'm making up the product. It's not, they didn't sell pens, but if they had a pen and a mouse pad and an eraser, then we'll get 5% more AOV, right? But then you have to manage all that inventory. So that's the worst reason. I would say when you fully crack a SKU, a product, then add more. Until then, stay focused. Unless your product sucks and no one wants it, then figure out what they want. But at $2 million, people do generally want your stuff. Just figure out how to capture demand better. Then, and only then, test a new SKU. Don't fully add the new SKU. So reach out to your list and say, hey, I'm working on this. Do you want it? And then if you get some good responses there, get a test run, not a big run, but a test run, try to sell that. And if you sell through it, great. Then add another one, and then so on. But be careful. Yeah, be careful. It's hard to add SKUs.
Very wise information, because I know one of the founder, I spoke with him. He just have one SKU, especially in supplement. It's just a one SKU, making $1 million, just a one product, and that's the thing. So I spoke with him and I told him, dude, how did you find this one? He said, like, I don't know. It's like by chance, but I was just working and I can able to scale from 1 to 1.5 million. Now I'm started introducing the product, but last 1 year I just had only one product. Imagine that you have just one product and make $1 million.
So that guy, I would tell him to stay with that one product until his growth rate is like 50% year on year for a couple years, right? And the reason why is this: the minute you add a second product, there's another part of the supply chain. There's new product pages, there's new ads, there's new this, there's new avatars, there's all these different things, manage ordering, and it takes your focus away. If you can sell $1.5 million of one SKU, you can definitely sell $5 million of it. I can almost guarantee, like I think that would be a rule, okay? So sell $5 million of that product in 1 year, then add your second one. Because until you sold at least five, you haven't proven you know how to market something yet. So don't add something else until you become expert at marketing. That's my view. Not everyone agrees, but
no, I think it's possible, Matt. The reason is, like, we also have a rule called Rule 1. If you are a founder and you have less than $1 million, we always do one thing is just go with one SKU, one product, one market, and one sales champ and try for 1 year. And then once you crack the code, and after that, once you reach out certain things, then you can start expanding. That's a rule we always follow. And I think that's actually giving a lot of sales and sales volume right now. So I totally agree on that. I'm just going to pivot a little bit from my question and ask, when I'm working with clients who have made a lot of, maybe I would say 1 to 2 million, and then they're thinking about expanding in different sales channels, for example, Amazon, TikTok, Shopify, and different platforms. So what is the rule of thumb? Basically, hit certain thing, then expanding into different channels makes sense, or you think?
Well, so I want to be careful. So as strongly as I feel about mastering one SKU, there are a lot of people that have done well with a lot of SKUs. I just don't recommend. So I'm going to just say the way I say it. Like, for example, Grunes, the gummy company, they went from 0 to 300 million ARR in like 20 months with one SKU, basically one SKU and maybe a couple variants. So like there are more of those success stories than there are of like people starting with 50, right? So, but it's not impossible. But again, so my thing is master one, then do more. And what does it mean to master? I mean, I think $5 million a year is mastery. Then you add more. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that's sure. And Matt, you're talking something about every dollar you invest, you have to get back $4 to $6 back. Can you walk me through like what is that math looks like and what's the reason?
Yeah. So if people hear a ROAS of 4 to 6, that's not what I mean by that. What I mean is that if the typical e-commerce company, if you sell something for $100, after the cost of the product and shipping and payment processing and the ads, you typically keep between 15 to 30% roughly. So sell something for $100, you get to keep 15 to 25 roughly. Okay. That means if you add $1 fixed cost, even $1, you have to sell $4 to $6 to cover that dollar fixed cost. So I always say, try to be as lean as possible for as long as possible because it's expensive. If you add a resource that's $100,000 a year, that resource must bring in $400,000 to $600,000 a year just to break even, right? And so like just don't hire until you have to. Don't add an office until you have to. Don't subscribe to stuff you don't need, or at least try it and then turn it off. So every dollar of fixed cost must be covered by $4 to $6 of revenue typically, and it's a high bar, but it's not even made up. It's just true. It's
going to be a little bit tough question. I know we didn't plan this question too, but I was just curious to ask. There's a lot of things when founders they think they're going to make it profitable, but in e-commerce, if the math is wrong, you're not going to do it. So what is the milestone or checkpoint every founder should have if they're not making profit, or they should think, okay, I have to stop this or have a change or pivot? What's the milestone, an idea they should have when they're scaling up a company? For example, from 1 to 2 million, they have to set up certain goal for milestone to achieve it. If you're not achieving that goals, what they should do first?
Yeah. Let's start at the foundations. So let's start with the product. Try to pick a product people need or want very badly, of course, right? And that's actually not my specialty. So pick your product, whatever. I don't know. That's not my job, right? And I'm not very good at that. But when you pick a product, you should try to be able to sell it for 80% margin. Now that's hard to do. And people can succeed at 60% margin, but it's way more difficult. Right? So I suggest if you're going to enter the business, try to find something that you can sell for 80% margin. From there, I would say, that's the biggest one is pick something with good margins to sell. And ideally pick something that a lot of people want, but you know what? People succeed in small niches too. So that's again, picking a market and a product isn't my specialty, but financially speaking, your gross margin that you work with today will either haunt you or help you for the rest of the life of your business. So choose the gross margin well, choose the product well for that reason. The most wealthy people I know, and they just bought their own jet. Their margins have been 85 to 90% for most of the time they've been in existence. And they kept their fixed costs very low, and they stayed focused in a small range of, but again, if they had chosen something at 50%, they would not have a jet today. So margins is the number one biggest starting point. Find something with a good margin.
Yeah, I think I believe finding the niche first and then also getting 80% profit margin is the key to getting to any other industries, I believe.
That makes sense because picking a niche is not my specialty, but it probably does make sense to consider who you want to sell to first. So I'll go with you for number one, and then margin for number two.
Yeah, that's because supplement. I usually work with a lot of supplement industry. It's saturated. There's a lot of competition, but also inside supplement, you can always find the niche supplement for kids, supplement for adult, or for supplement for women, or supplement for men. Or this particular company is making just supplement for migraine solution. If you have a migraine and you have a headache and other things like that, they just only focus on that certain niche, and they can scale up to $5 to $6 million. So that's the reason. So I was just thinking niche and 80% margin. Exactly, you're right. They have 80% profit margin. So that's exactly. I'm just mapping this information when I see that it's a bad point. Let's talk about something in AI space. I saw couple of videos you're doing some area where you're experimenting on cloud code. Talk to me about how you are experimenting with cloud code or maybe AI space, how it's helping you right now.
Yeah, I have been up till 1 or 2 a.m. every night for the past week building with AI. I went from 0 AI employees. I now have 4 and I'm working on a 5th. And I'm talking like not workflows, like literal, like helpful staff members. So I have one I call her Kira. She's a creative strategist. But she has access to my Meta account, my website. She has access to my go-to-market documentation, and my marketing and sales scorecards and my CRM. So every morning she sends me a report. She goes, your ads did this yesterday. This was the part of your funnel that's a problem. You should fucking hurry up and fix that. And she said, if you want to grow your ads and your top of funnel and get more qualified leads, you should do these 3 things and turn off this campaign, turn off that campaign, push this one's budget higher. And so I'm just listening to her at this point, right? I also made an HR agent who has access to my full HR platform. So every week she sends me a report. In the next 14 days, these 2 people need an employee review for their quarter. Here's the data on them and blah, 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 blah. I can say, hey, post a job for whatever, and she'll post the job by herself. I could say, cancel this job posting, and she'll cancel it. I can tell me who's in the pipeline. She'll tell me what their attributes are. I'm making an AI CFO for e-commerce, and it is insane. I'm starting to show it to some folks. If anybody in your audience wants like 3 free months, I would offer that to them. And it's incredible what we can do now and what this AI CFO can do. Like for here, an example is I said, hey, this is my product sales for the last 3 years. Tell me what I'm going to sell of each SKU based on my forecast sales this year. And it went boo, 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 like reorder points and stockouts and statistical analysis on what the SKU profile should be. And then it did, here's what purchase orders you should do throughout the course of this year based on your MOQs and your timelines and all this other stuff and your safety stock. And it made the entire forecast SKU plan by itself. I mean, we set up a couple things, so this thing is incredible. It also then analyzed my entire customer history and told me, based on how things are going, your repeat revenue from each cohort should be this. Let's map it out. And when you forecast it, so it's beyond, and it gives me seasonal cost of acquisition. And anyway, so I love it. And again, we're starting to deploy it for some clients today. And we're looking for some beta testers too. So yeah.
That's awesome. Let me know, Matt. Maybe I can introduce a couple of people or beta testing people and see if they're interested to give feedback to it. And this is amazing. So there's a lot of opportunity, and every day I'm just trying code right now. We have agents and other things like that. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Thank you, Matt. And how do we connect with you? I mean, audience who wants to connect with you?
Yeah, my website, I just launched another version. It's 8x.co, EIGHTX.co. I will say I'm very active on Instagram. So if someone wants to literally DM me, like I read my DMs and I will talk to them and give them stuff and help. So please hit me up on Instagram. I don't use LinkedIn anymore, not really. But you can go to my website and book a call. You may find your way to a different CFO on my team through that. But if you want to talk to me, Instagram's the best way.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you very much, Matt. Thanks for your time. Looking forward to working with you soon.
Thanks, Arun. So good to meet you, dude.